Hi, I'm Tyler, and this is the Fox Valley Film Critics. In this special episode, we're going to be discussing the next in the lineup of the AFI's Top 100 movies at the High Noon, as well as the newest Alex Garland science fiction movie, Annihilation. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to the show, brought to you by Groupthink Productions and FVTV. Joining us for this episode is film producer and director Nicole Colette.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Sure thing. Good to have you on the show.
Yeah, good to be here.
So, I guess brief history, you and I have worked on a couple of projects.
Yes, we worked on 2 of my films.
Yes.
And started working on one of yours. And you've done sound for me, which is cool.
Yeah, and you've been kind of going through the process of, how many schools have you been to now?
Oh my gosh, like 2 or 3? I don't know. I have 2 degrees though, 2 degrees in film.
And now you're working for NBC?
Yes, I work for NBC. I do like transportation, so it's not quite where I want to be, but yeah.
Well, everyone starts.
Yeah, I work on the Chicago firemen PD shows.
I think everyone in Chicago works on the Chicago shows.
I think they do too. They're kind of popular. They employ a lot of people.
That or Empire.
Yeah, I don't do that one. It's close to us, but not. I don't do that one.
It's all out of the same warehouse.
Yeah, it's all out of the same warehouse essentially.
Anyway, so you said you were saying that you don't particularly. One of our conversations off screen was that you were saying that one of the great paradoxes of working in film is that you don't actually get to watch all that much film.
I really don't. Yeah, I work in it. I write movies, I direct movies, produce them, work in TV, don't actually get to watch any of it.
Yeah, I hear that a lot from people who work in the industry, especially people who like do the blogosphere and stuff like that who write about it. It's like sorry, I haven't written in 2 months. I've been working 100-hour weeks for the past
Well, because you work crazy hours, and then they're all like, you have to watch these films. It's like, oh yeah, I don't really have time. So
yeah, so I'm curious for the 2 movies we're going to be discussing. I'm curious about your opinion on the technical side of this. I think.
Okay.
Because you have a lot of experience working behind the camera and directing and stuff like that. So I'm curious as to how you're going to think about that, because these are both very well production design done films.
Yeah.
So the first one is of course High Noon, which is, I don't know if I would call this the greatest Western ever, because we've already reviewed John Wayne's The Searchers, and that's pretty high, and there's also The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and there's a lot of really classic Westerns that you could probably say are the best Western ever, but this is certainly one of them.
I'm not familiar with Westerns too much,
Yeah.
So this is kind of like one of the first ones that I've seen.
This is a good starter, so.
Well, I mean, it's okay, I lied. It's not one of the first ones I've seen, but I haven't seen them in a while, and it was kind of a nice refresher, but can I just say that I love that it's in black and white. I love that it's shot on film.
Yes.
The depth that film brings is so much better than digital. And not only that, back then it's an older movie. So back then, instead of doing a lot of like cutting where you're like, okay, we're gonna get this angle, they did a lot of like movement to and from camera, which is really great, and something that I enjoyed and appreciated in this.
I noticed that a lot with old movies, is that obviously because of the way they had to shoot back then, like they couldn't do multi-camera setups the way they do now.
Yeah.
So you had to like rely on the master a lot better, so the camera would be moving back constantly, and you'd be shifting this the way it's shot constantly.
Yeah, so your master becomes your like close-up and your medium, and you get like so much more detail in one scene, in one take.
Did you see Hail Caesar?
No.
Okay, that was the newest Coen Brothers movie, and you actually get to see a little bit how that works from.
They're really good at that too, though.
Yeah, well,
Coen
they are.
Brothers.
They're very like old-fashioned with their filmmaking, but there's a great scene where you see like a drama being shot, and it's for a lot of the perspective of the scene is you see the giant swooping camera as it's moving behind, and you get to see like how the actors are kind of interacting with the space and how it's blocked and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's something like we learned in school, especially was like, okay, they were trying to teach us, okay, movement to and from, and how to get multiple frames so you didn't have to do as many takes. But I think with digital, you don't get that same thing because you can easily just cut it. You're not paying for the film, and film is very expensive.
You're only paying for the camera, the memory space.
Yeah, and there's a lot more of it.
Yes, but it is still a problem Like I've been on productions where it's like, oh, we filled up the terabyte hard drive already.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's that aspect, but you can always go back and like, okay, let's watch this and delete it, as opposed to where like this, I mean, you have one take, you only have so much film, so.
You have a physical limitation to the process.
Yeah. Yeah, there's actually like a point where you have to stop. And film is expensive, so.
This would definitely have come at the moment of the studio system. So this was like, you physically have a job to do. You must go out there and you must get this done with this much tape.
Yeah, like this is all you get. Another thing I really liked is there's a very like strong female character in here, which
Yes.
I'm not used to have. Well, I guess there's two essentially, but there's Miss Ramirez, I believe is her name, and it was very different for me, like to see that.
In an older film is.
Yeah, it was like she's a strong character. She's kind of like a boss in a sense. Like she has. It's just not normal for like that time to have, or at least from the movies I've seen from that time, to have such a strong character like that. So I really appreciated that. And she was, I believe, foreign.
I'm not sure. Like I'd have to look into Grace Kelly's past, but it's quite possible. There were a lot of like foreign actresses working in Hollywood at the time. So
Yeah, it was just interesting to me. I was like, most women around that time had a very kind of like man lead role, and she wasn't the main lady, but she definitely had a strong personality, and I liked that.
especially towards the end, where she's like instrumental in the plot, like in the final moments of the plot.
Yeah. I also love that the character was like so against all of this, and then all of a sudden at the end, it's like, oh, wait a minute, like course changed and everything.
The context is important because words are hard. The clever
Words are very hard.
the clever conceit of the film is that almost everything that happens in the film is taking place over the course of a single hour that we're watching play out.
Which
in real
doesn't
time.
feel like it, by the way.
Yeah.
I was watching it and I was like, we're still in this hour. It felt really long to me.
Well, it feels long for the character too. So
I guess.
the context is a criminal is going to be arriving on an oncoming train that's going to arrive at noon today, and it's the main character is at his wedding when he finds out about this.
It takes the whole day to get to noon.
Yes.
Like, it takes almost the entire movie to get to noon.
Well, it's only like an hour and a half movie.
It felt a lot longer. It's not my type of movie. I watched it. It was enjoyable. Not my type of movie, but I was like, oh my gosh, we're still in this hour. It's very real time.
I'd kind of call it like proto Alfred Hitchcockian. Like
Yeah.
it has that kind of like, because one of the things I found looking back at the history of the film is that people who watched it initially thought that they were in for like a boom boom action movie.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were disappointed. It's like, oh, we have to wait an hour for it.
I know, and then there's like this one sequence at the end, and like that's pretty much it. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay, this is different. Like not what I would have expected for a Western.
Yeah, so it's a lot of suspense to build up because the whole idea is that Gary Cooper's character is trying to find people to help him because it's going to be the criminal and then 3 or 4 of his accomplices.
Yeah.
And at the moment, he's the marshal. He's the only one who can help the town. So he's like, okay, I'm going to go round up all the deputies, and then we're going to have a group of people we can take on.
And he has the worst friends.
Yeah,
That's really essentially what this movie to me was. It was like, oh, I need help, and the entire town's like, you did a great job, but we're
Yeah.
not going to help you.
There's-
And then they're like, no, we're good. And then at the end, they all come out and they're like, yay.
I guess the film, you could say, is kind of about choice and morality and individualism. I
Yeah.
guess it's about like you have to go out of your way to do the right thing because other people aren't going to do it.
Exactly.
And if you don't, then a bad person is going to roll up and start doing bad things.
Start doing bad things.
Yes.
Yeah. I just thought it was, to me, it was kind of funny. I was like, oh, he has all these. There's a scene where he goes to his friend's house and like the dude's wife answers, and she's just like, yeah, he's not home or whatever. And the guy's like, yeah, don't tell him I'm home. It's like, this is your friend. Like, you're not going to help him? What kind of person are you? Like, you've been friends with him your whole life? Like, now you're just going to ditch him? Like, just because? That's not nice.
I love that scene where he gets back to the deputy's office and the other deputy is the only one who's agreed to help. It's just like,
Because he has other motives.
well, he's just afraid. He's just like, I signed on to this when I thought we would get 3 or 4 other deputies and we'd have the numerical advantage, but I have a wife and kids, man. I got to go home.
I got to go, yeah.
And
I
then
can't do my job
Gary
anymore.
Cooper's just like, fine, go.
He's like, I'll take it on by myself. It's fine. And then he does. And
Barely.
yeah, well, His wife helped him a little.
Yeah, but that's the great ending. But
Yeah, that's like the unexpected part. I think
that shootout sequence is great though, because you can tell like you like feel every shot of that. Like there's that great shot where he's like lining up against the barn, and all of a sudden you see it before you hear it, but then those like the little bullet hole you hear appears next to his head, and you're just like, oh crap.
I just feel like it happens so quickly though. It's like the whole movie you're like, oh okay, we're waiting, and then all of a sudden it's like boom, done.
That's
You're
kind
like,
of how
whoa.
violence works, though. It's
I
always
guess.
in real life. Violence is usually very quick. It's not a 20-minute action scene in real life, but
I guess. But I like that that his wife comes out in the end. It's like she kind of tries to save the day, and then doesn't really get a chance to, and then he's like, oh, I got you, and then
he would. I don't think he would have survived without her, though.
no, he wouldn't have. He definitely wouldn't have. But she's like the only person. She's like, I'm not doing this. Oh, the whole film, I'm not doing this. And then at the end, it's like, oh, wait, I think I love you. Never mind. Unlike all the rest of your friends, like, I'm going to come
dare
help
you abandon me on my wedding day?
Yeah, exactly. How dare you? And then it's like, oh, shoot, I think I might want to be with you still.
I kind of get that in a way. It's just like, this is supposed to be my wedding, darn it. But,
yeah, it did kind of get, a
but
little.
yeah, but she makes the right choice in the end. But
Well, that's debatable.
She helps. She saved his life.
I don't know. I mean, she saved his life, but I don't know. I feel like as a female, I'd be like, bye.
Fair enough, but that's all the time we have for this segment. Join us for the next segment. We'll be discussing Annihilation. Stay tuned.
Does this help at all?
Anything helps, ma'am. Just try to get some sleep now.
I can't sleep.
Yeah, me neither. I'm on my way.
Hello and welcome back. Now we get to talk about Alex Garland's Annihilation. So, you were saying that you weren't entirely into this film then?
No, so there were parts of it I was like, okay, I like this. Other parts I was like, that's not even close to being believable. The ending, I was like so lost and confused. I was like, what just happened? And me and my friend, we were watching it together, and we were kind of having discussions, and I think we were driving people behind us nuts in the theater. But yeah, he was like, oh, I think this is what's going on. And I was like, oh, okay. Sure, we'll go with it. And I'm trying to watch it, and then the ending, you're just like, wait a minute, what? Like there's a good shock value, I think, at the end, which is cool.
Yeah. So for me, I was very excited to see this. I am a huge fan of Alex Garland, who I met him briefly back in college when he visited Chicago for his tour for Ex Machina. But he's been doing like a ton of stuff in Hollywood for a long time. Like he wrote 8 Days Later. He's wrote Dread. He's written a lot of like science fiction-y movies, and this is his second major film, and it's an adaptation of a book, as I'm told. And I'm finding a lot of people have very disparate opinions on it.
Yeah, I could see that.
So there's some people that just like grooving on how weird and violent and suspenseful it is, and then there are people who are just like, I have no idea what's even happening in this movie.
That's kind of, I feel like I was one of those people. I was like, I think I know what's happening, and then I'm like, oh, no, I don't, no, I don't. Then I'm like, ooh, that's really weird. And I'm like, eh.
But you're kind of getting on what it was going for. I've read a lot of good film criticism on it, and there's a lot of people talking about how it's like a metaphor for like grief or emotional distress or something like that, or stuff like that. And because a lot of the film has to deal with the main character who's
she's going through some stuff.
She's gone through stuff, and she's going through stuff. So
all of the cool thing is the main characters, they're all going through. They're kind of broken. That's how they are kind of pieced together. They're having marital issues. They lost somebody. And they're going on this mission. I think it's kind of cool that all of them have something that is wrong with them. I think it's cool that they're going on this mission. It's kind of a suicide mission, but they don't really expect it to be.
Yes.
They definitely bring up, there's like a moment in the film where they're even talking about how it's a suicide mission, how you're, the difference between that and just being broken and kind of filling in life.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the word and I can't. Like you said earlier, words are tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's based around essentially these broken people and going on this mission to try to essentially save the universe or the world or whatever.
I think more personally, it's about them saving themselves. But
That too, yeah.
Because there's a lot of discussion about like suicide mission and self-destruction, and you can kind of tell that going into the Shimmer, as it's called, this enormous area of the southern United States that's just being completely mutated and consumed, and there's a lot of references to cancer and how the biology itself is just being mutated and warped into something completely different. And I think that there's a lot going on with that, to the point where a lot of it comes down to like these characters who they are innately self-destructive, going into a place that is innately self-destructive. So it's a lot of it becomes kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy for them, where they go in with what they're carrying on their back, and that thing consumes them to some degree.
I can say it's confusing. First of all, I'm not a science person. Second of all, not my type of movie at all. But the movie itself is, I mean, the storylines and things like that, it's engaging. So obviously, even if that's not your thing, you still kind of want to see what's going to happen. I never felt like there was a moment in the movie where I was like, I'm not into this. There were parts of it where I was like, oh, that's not believable, but I was still engaged. But the visual aspect of it, they go into like this forest or jungle, and it's very, very well done. The visual aspect of it. And the lighting in the very first, very beginning. I like that they don't make it so glamorous. I like that the lighting is not perfect, that she looks run down, that she looks really, they do a really good job at transitioning, which is really cool. What did you think about that kind of stuff?
This might be the best technically done film this year we've seen thus far. Just like the way that everything is color graded, the way everything is executed. Like you don't like, you were saying you don't like digital, but this is probably one of the best visual, like digitally shot films this year. Like,
I agree.
Like
it's so pretty in some aspects, and in some like you're like, oh.
And all the scenes were the I guess you could call them the special effects scenes, like the alligator scene and the bear scene and the final scene in the lighthouse. They're incredibly suspenseful.
Yes.
They're very, like, you don't know what's immediately going to happen, and you're just sitting on the edge of your seat like...
The alligator scene is kind of intense.
It comes out of nowhere, too.
It comes out of nowhere, and it takes you out of, it turns into like a little horror movie for a minute. That was pretty intense. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? And then they start, shooting it or whatever. It was kind of a cool scene. I really like there's a shot in there after they kill the alligator where they're shooting from outside to see the women. That was really cool. Yeah.
I like how like mundane it is too. Like it's not like a giant horrifying monster. It's just an alligator with shark teeth.
Yeah,
it's like
it's weird looking. It's a weird looking alligator.
Yeah, like as far as I know, alligators that from like that area of the country aren't that aggressive. Like crocodiles are the ones that are like really violent creatures. So having an alligator like charge at you is kind of unsettling too. So
yeah, a little bit, especially when it comes out of nowhere and like takes your backpack. They're like trying to save her. It was great. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil like the confrontation at the lighthouse because that's
you can't do that.
I'll just say like you said you didn't quite understand it, but
no, I understood it like once the movie was over. But me and my friend, we were talking about it, and we were like coming up with different theories as to what was happening. And so when it got towards the end and they were back in the hospital, and I don't want to ruin it, but when they got back into the hospital area or the quarantine area,
when they're kind of explaining what happened.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, okay. So like our theory was kind of there and kind of off, but then I was like, really? I don't know. I felt like it was shocking, but I was kind of disappointed with the ending a little bit, and I don't know why. That's just how that was.
It's very abstract. Like it's got that kind of 2001 thing going on where everything is like it's not necessarily literal what's happening.
Yeah.
I'd also call it kind of, it's got that Lovecraftian sort of deal to it where, again, I don't want to spoil anything, but it definitely has that, it's about the horror of being in the presence of something that doesn't realize how much damage it's doing just by existing.
Yeah.
and
I agree.
that's horrifying in and of itself, and it's like Cthulhu except not.
It was just weird to me. Like there were so many aspects of it that was real, and then you get to this, and there is that self-destructive background, but just in general, you get to the ending, and I was like, I don't know. Like I was really hoping for something more, and I'm not sure what I don't really know. I'd have to play around with it, but I was really hoping for something kind of more towards the end.
It struck me just how small the story felt. Like
Yes.
it wasn't like this. You didn't necessarily feel like, other than the fact that these characters know that the shimmer is going to consume the planet at some point, you don't necessarily feel like this is a story with greater stakes than just what's happening immediately to these characters.
Yeah, I agree.
But I don't know if that's good or bad or not. But
I think for this story, it's good. I think it helps. I don't know. It's just such a weird film. But can I just talk about really quick
Yeah.
how much this lady annoyed me? The psychologist lady. I can't remember
Jennifer
her
Jason
name.
Leigh, Ventress?
Yes, she really drove me nuts.
Really?
Yeah. Her, like, she's monotone, like, the whole, and you find out why later on, and you get it, but then, like, the whole film, she really made me want to punch her. It's like,
I mean, that wasn't my immediate reaction to it, but that's interesting.
that was mine.
No, that's fine.
I play aggressive sports, so, but I was like, God, she really annoys me. Like, they're all very monotone. Like, the whole beginning, Natalie Portman's character, that lady, until you meet like the other characters, everything is very kind of just like this. It's weird.
I've heard some off criticism on the film, just from random critics online, that some people don't think that Alex Garland can write female characters all that well, which I don't. No, I don't. That's not here or there for me, but because I can't really speak to that. But I
thought they were written well, though. I think that their
Maybe it's from a
sense
certain-
of not having so much emotion really showed.
Okay.
And like played into their storyline.
Okay, like I wasn't sure about that specifically because I've heard that criticism and I was like, I can't speak to that, but
I'm not a female. I don't know.
I mean, I loved all the characters though, so and
Yeah.
I didn't have the same complaint with Ventress, so.
Yeah, she drove me nuts. I don't know. Like I don't think I'll probably never watch that again just because of that. But like, but yeah, I mean, it brought about their characters more, so I wouldn't say it was written badly for them. I just think that's just one of those, it got on my nerves.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. And then the other characters, there's parts where they like go crazy. She like straps them down to like a chair and stuff, and you're like, oh, that was an intense scene.
Well, then that ends with, I don't want to spoil what happens next.
Well, I don't want to spoil it. I'm just saying it's an intense scene.
But yeah.
But
Overall,
then you start getting answers, and you're like, oh, okay. And then they start becoming more emotional, more, I think, in-depth characters at that point.
Yeah.
Whereas up till then, you're kind of just like, why am I invested in you?
that's basically when they start breaking down. So that's all the time we have for this segment. Overall, controversial opinions, but join us for the final segment where we'll be getting Nicole's movie recommendation for this week. Stay tuned.
Good coffee, huh? Oh my god! What are you doing in my apartment?
Hello and welcome back to the final segment. We're going to hand things over now to the movie recommendations.
Okay, so movie recommendation. You said something kind of like cult classic-y. One of my all-time favorite films is Dazed and Confused.
Okay, yeah.
Which I don't know how many people have actually seen, and I don't even know what's fantastic about it, other than it's by my favorite director, Richard Linklater, and it's literally just a movie that takes place in like one night, which is very hard to do for a short, more or less a feature, and he's genius at it. But it's just about these kids that it's like them progressing from junior high to high school and just kind of having a wild party and a crazy time, and there's really no plot. It's
Yeah.
great. Have you ever seen it?
I have seen it once, and I went out of my way to get a DVD of it because I liked it. So
Yeah, I saw it. I used to watch it like every year when school would come out because that was, you know, the whole point of the movie is they are out of school for the summer and they kind of just do crazy things. They are, you know, drugs, partying, rock and roll. The soundtrack is fantastic.
it is.
Yeah, it's amazing. Which his other films, he made one more recently, which is kind of the
Everybody Wants Some? Or?
yes, which I also love, but not nearly as good or classic as Dazed and Confused.
I'll tell you what, I watched a lot of his recent ones, and I didn't quite get them until I went and watched Dazed and Confused, and I was like, okay, now his entire filmography makes sense.
He writes films based on things that he's experienced. So like every time, if you know any more of his films, every time I watch them, I'm like, man, this guy had to have a great life. Like he had to do some crazy things because you watch that, you watch Everybody Wants Them. Essentially, Boyhood is about his
Boyhood.
as well. But you watch these films and they're basically just parts of his life that he like embellished a little bit. I'm thinking, I never got that exciting experience. Like, so I have to live vicariously through these movies. And that's really great. If you've had a really boring life, then I recommend that one because it's fun.
Sure. And the Matthew McConaughey quote is just
Oh
classic.
yeah. All right, all right, all right.
He's got like 5 quotes in that movie. But. So anyway, you wanted to kind of plug your short film?
Yeah, so I have the short film out. It's winning awards. We're going to an awards ceremony this Thursday. It's called Innocence. It has a Facebook page. It's just a good film. It's a short. It's only 6 minutes and 32 seconds long.
And I did the sound design for it.
And he did the sound design for it, yeah. And it's really good. It's winning awards, and yeah, I don't really have much else to say about it.
Do you have any other film festivals booked for it? Or?
Yeah, there's one in Missouri next month that we're going to, and then it's in the festival circuit, so it's not out online yet, but it will be. So if you follow it on Facebook, you'll keep on getting updates as to what's going on with it. But we're doing a lot of different events for it to try to promote it, and it's being turned into a feature.
Yeah, I was going to ask
Yeah.
about that. I hadn't heard about that in a while.
Being
but-
turned into a feature as we speak, being written. It's a really good movie. It's really dramatic. Has nothing to do with anything that we talked about today. It's very dramatic, with a nice surprise ending.
It's better than all those like ancient Western films and bad
Yeah.
science fiction. Who cares about those?
It's modern. It's not shot on film, though, unfortunately. I wish it was.
0 out of 10 then. But yeah, it's good. That's all the time we have for this show. Thank you so much for coming on. You can follow me on Twitter at antisocialcriti. That's critic without the C at the end. You can find more of my written reviews at Geeks Under Grace and the antisocialcritic.tumblr.com. And you can find past recordings of this show on the Grip Thing Productions YouTube page. I'm Tyler with the Fox Valley Film Critics. Have a wonderful day.